Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry, I was on mute. Good afternoon and welcome. I am 𝐁𝐢𝐫𝐿 Velasco, the Institute of Mathematics, and I would like to welcome you all to the Institute of Mathematics webinar series for this second semester academic year 2020 to 2021. Now, just like last semester's webinar series, our first webinar will be dedicated to the 60th birthday of a beloved professor. And for this semester, it's none other than our Chancellor, Fidel Nemenzo. So before we start, I would like to note that this meeting is being recorded and it is also being streamed live via YouTube. So we would also like to greet those who are watching us on YouTube. And I think the link is posted on the Institute of Mathematics Facebook page and the College of Science Facebook page. Now, just some reminders. I would like to note that this kindly use the chat box or on Zoom or on YouTube for your greetings, comments, and questions. And those who are on Zoom, please take note that everyone is on mute by default and you will not be able to unmute yourselves. So in the meantime, you may use the chat box for your messages. So during the Q&A part of the talk, those who wish to ask their questions live may raise their hand and you will be given the opportunity to ask your question. Okay, so now let me introduce you to the host or moderator of this webinar, Dr. Julius Basilia, the head of the Coding and Number Theory Academic Group. So they are responsible for organizing this webinar for Chancellor Fidel Nemenzo. Sir Julius.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry, there was a bit of a lag. Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, let me first recognize the Chancellor. Happy birthday. Our Dean, Dr. Giovanni Tapang. Good afternoon. And our, yeah, there was a transition already, but our director, Pilar-Arceo. And sorry if I missed some of you because of the screen and now. Yeah, and I would also before I introduce our first speaker, I would like to thank Vickman, Dr. Archeta, and 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫. I think they're the two who spearheaded the organization of this activity today. Okay, so let me go now to the introduction of our first speaker. Okay, I think Gino, am I allowed to share the screen?
Yes, Sir Julius, your co-host.
Okay.
Pero sir, may welcome po muna ata.
Oh yeah,
May welcome
okay.
remarks.
Yeah, okay. I think the first, yeah, the first program, first part of our program is an opening remarks by no other than by the Dean of the College of Science, Giovanni Tapang. He's actually the dean, but he's not that older than me. I think he's just older than me by a few years. We were together in the College of Science complex. I was in the math lab, and I think he was in the organization beside the math lab. So we frequently bump each other, and uh, I due to the pandemic, I am not updated, but I think he's now already on the second term as a dean. Like our chancellor. Sorry, but first term, okay. Sorry, but I haven't known. But Dr. Tapang is from the Institute of National from the National Institute of Physics. He has been doing a lot of research. I think he's been involved with some this collaboration with the Marine Science Institute. And without further ado, I would now give the floor to our Dean Giovanni Tapang.
Yeah, thank you very much. Julius is also my neighbor. So I don't recall exactly what the dates when I met Fidel, Fidel Nemenzo, but there were distinct moments that I remember whenever I get to meet him. First, that stuck with me was in a forum when then Vice President 𝐂𝐤𝐫𝐭𝐡𝐝 dropped by to speak at the College of Science. And Fidel's office at the Science Society program was the nearest office at the CS atrium where we can have the Vice President stand by. It was not VP 𝐂𝐤𝐫𝐭𝐡𝐝 that I remember that day. It was the very big Einstein poster that he had in his SSP office. There were also the books, the many photos that he had, plus the whiteboard that were filled with numbers and equations. The second time that I remember Fidel was in a discussion at the College of Science Associate Dean for Academic Affairs Office on the automation of UP processes. We were discussing then open source software. And again, there was that board with equations as a backdrop on that very important meeting where different stakeholders were sitting down. I saw him more and more in mobilizations at the college executive board, at his office at the Office of Vice Chancellor for Research and Development. And there were more meetings, but there is always that whiteboard, the books, as a reminder that Fidel, as SSP Director, Science Society Program Director, as the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, as Vice Chancellor, and now our Chancellor, will always be a mathematician at heart, will always be an intellectual, he will always be a patriot. The College of Science, Fidel, is wishing you the best and is always willing to help UP Diliman in all areas, from contributing to our academic work to helping out in other activities. Happy birthday, Fidel, padayon, and mabuhay ka. And also, of course, welcome to everybody in this very important IMath webinar. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean. I'm a bit of a loss. This is my first time to host in Zoom. Okay, that's why I'm a bit of a loss, and I got to learn of my job about 3 or 5 minutes ago. But okay, I'm sorry for a bit interchanging the order. Would like now to hear some word to our. Let me call you a director because I think I still feel that you are the director, even though you chose to serve the greater public. Okay, I think her position now is in the Office of the Institutional Linkages, a position that demands for a greater position, a greater responsibility, because it's now serving the entire university. But okay, without further ado, let me now give you the floor to Director Pilar-Arceo.
Thank you very much, Julius. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon, Chancellor. Belated happy birthday. Good afternoon, Dean Tapang. Thank you very much for your message. I actually pre-recorded my message a bit earlier because I was afraid that the connection might not be reliable. So I will be requesting Gino, I think it will be Gino, to play my message. But before that, thank you very much. It's wonderful to see all of you here with us at this webinar. Students, guests, friends of the Institute, especially those who are giving their special time early in the morning or maybe close to midnight abroad. Thank you, everyone. And Gino, I will request Gino, please, to play my recorded message.
Yes, ma'am. Si Lucky po.
Okay, Lucky then. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chancellor, Dean Gani Tapang, colleagues from UP Diliman and IMath. Good afternoon to our guests from outside UP and even abroad. Thank you very much for making time for this webinar, even if for some of you it's midnight or even the wee hours of the morning. Today, February 19, would be just a few days after the first anniversary of Dr. Nemenzo's appointment as Diliman Chancellor. Our congratulatory tarp still hangs in our lobby, a testament to how time has stood still for us in many ways since the pandemic started. But of course, time could not stand still for us in the university. It was the middle of the second semester then, and we soon found ourselves in fast-forward mode on how to proceed with and how to end the semester. As a response to how we could not let time stand still either for our academic groups, we came up with the IMath webinar series. In August 2020, we launched the IMath webinar series on the occasion of the 60th birthday of Dean Joey Balmaceda, one of our speakers today. Now, we're launching Series 2 of the webinars on the occasion of the 60th birthday of Chancellor Fidel Nemenzo. But there's no pattern, ha? Matagal pa before the next IMath professor turns 60. And we assure you we will do our best to keep the webinar series running until then. Baka Series 10 na nun. Someone else for whom time could not stand still was a newly appointed Chancellor. He would officially start office on March 1, 2020. In less than 2 weeks, the lockdowns would begin. What a beginning and what a distinctly unique term. A term which would have him protecting UPD from a pandemic on top of ensuring that operations, academic matters still flowed smoothly. Everyone was called to stay indoors. We went on survival mode and hunkered down, back to the basics, as they say. But our minds had to be wide open and creative in dealing with the basics of this age. In other words, last year also began a time of wonder and discovery. It was a mathematician, Peter Gustav Dirichlet, who once said, "In mathematics, as in other fields, to find oneself lost in wonder at some manifestation is frequently half the discovery." Does anyone know the birthday of Gustav Dirichlet? February 13th, the same as our Chancellor. Those who have had the privilege of spending time with Fidel would attest that he is high on the wonder scale. Attend a conference with him and you'll see. He would wonder about the locale, the food, the history, the culture, the customs. Fidel couldn't wait to get out of his conference attire and into his trusty shirt, jeans or shorts, and slippers and explore a city's streets and its street food. Sometimes this really meant sitting on the street for an unforgettable meal. He loved the real feel of a place and wanted to share it or discover it with those who were with him. He would be grateful for the touristy stuff, but would be curious about the true inner workings of a place and eventually wander about on his own or with those brave enough to join him. Many times we had no choice, as he was often our guide. A few examples come quickly to mind. In Singapore, he took us on a midnight stroll to a 24-hour cafe, just around the corner, he said, so we wouldn't fall asleep while waiting to go to the airport for our dawn flight home. I think we turned 24 corners. On another short walk, this was the day before, one of our friend's sandals even broke. Once in Cebu, we visited his hometown. On the drive back to the city, Fidel recalled a shortcut he said he knew from years back. We discovered that it had since turned out to be a scary stretch that was now deserted and under repair. The shortcut lasted a suspenseful 1 hour in the dark, but along the way, we saw a tree full, really full of small, chirping birds. As Monbusho scholars, at the same time in Tokyo, he led us in climbing Mount Fuji. Upon sight of Station 8, there are 10 stations, Fidel triumphantly declared, "Malapit na," but didn't tell us there was a station 8A, 8B, and so on. Oh, how I cherish my walking stick, my Mount Fuji walking stick. Ayan ang salarin. A walk naman through Jogja, this is Yogyakarta in Indonesia, had us exploring side street after side street after side street that we had to rest for a while at an alley store. The locals looked at us, then looked at him even more and said, Jackie-chan? My tiredness vanished as I almost fell to the ground with laughter. When you step out with Fidel, brace yourself for food, surprises, and sometimes scary, zany turns, even in his own home. But be assured that you will emerge none the worse for wear and with only happy stories to tell. In case hindi nyo makilala, ayan siya. Like inspecting a city to its very core, Fidel investigated with gusto math's most basic element, the number. He would study, master, be enamored with the ins and outs, sights, taste, smell, all the nitty-gritty about the number, the way he would any place he was visiting. He could go on and on about the beauty of an equation, a proof, a twist in reasoning. Look at this note he scribbled. From Ramanujan, of course, his favorite. I hope I can see your expressions. As another famous mathematician, Paul Erdős, said, it's like asking why Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is beautiful. If you don't see why, someone can't tell you. I know numbers are beautiful. If they aren't beautiful, nothing is. This morning, we will be hearing more about number theory and about the Institute's preeminent number theorist, Dean Joey and Professor Waldschmidt, a dear colleague and friend from France, will give us a bit of number theory and a bit more about Fidel. This will be followed by video greetings. So, okay, sir, I will now wrap up. Wrapping up this welcome, I would like to acknowledge the work of the Coding and Number Theory Group of the Institute in organizing this webinar. Thanks also to Gino, Dr. Velasco, for making sure this IMath webinar series will continue this semester. And thank you, Fidel, Chancellor, for allowing us to do the Series 2 launch on the occasion of your senior citizenship. Keep reaching for new heights. Once again, good afternoon to all and welcome to the IMath webinars, Series 2.
Okay, thank you very much, Kayan. Okay. We now go to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Jose Maria Balmaceda. He is an academician of this country. He was elected in the National Academy of Science and Technology in 2008. And he was also awarded he was also awarded the national or the outstanding young scientist sometime in 1995. Currently, he has been involved in the Commission of Developing Countries in the International Math Union, and has served as president of the Mathematical Society of the Philippines in several occasions, I think. Okay. I remember by the time I became involved in the mathematical community, he was already at the Mathematical Society of the Philippines. He has been the director and the dean of the director of the Institute and the College of Science, the dean of the College of Science. He's the first director actually of the Institute of Mathematics, and I had witnessed how he has been involved in the shift of this institution from being a department to being an institute. And I think everyone would agree with me if I give the credit to him for the instituteness of this department. Although we became an institute under when Dr. Jose Lope was the chairman, and then under his term, the transition happened, and then it was followed by our first director, Dr. Balmaceda. Yeah, as I've said a while ago, he has been awarded the Outstanding Young Scientist in 1995, and actually he's very instrumental in the institute getting more awards for Outstanding Young Scientists. I think in the Philippines, this institute has had the most number of outstanding young scientists in mathematics, and I would not be wrong, I think, to say to give this credit to Dr. Balmaceda. Without okay, he got his PhD, by the way, in Urbana or in University of Illinois in the University of Chicago in Urbana, I think. Yeah, 1991, and he has been working in finite group theory and the representations in algebraic combinatorics. In my personal assumption, or personal perception, I have seen two kinds of PhD, particularly in developing countries like the Philippines. One who has become a PhD in the classical sense because he has learned more areas of mathematics, and then the other one is who became a PhD because they were able to publish one or two papers in a particular journal. Dean Joey belongs to that first class, and I think with the sad passing of Dr. Felix in the recent month, Dr. Balmaceda belongs to one of the endangered species here in the Philippines. Okay, of those people who really knows about all areas of mathematics, including I remember him being my teacher in algebraic topology, in various areas of mathematics, including I think complex analysis, etc., etc. So without further ado, I would now give the floor to Dr. Balmaceda.
Hello. I hope you can hear me. Is that correct? So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julius, for those kind words and your warning about my mortality. And also thank you to Kayan for already setting the tone for this very important occasion. So good afternoon again, everyone, or good morning and good evening to some. It's a real pleasure for me to speak in this webinar honoring our colleague and dear friend, and now our Chancellor, Dr. Fidel Nemenzo. Gino, may I share screen? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, Fidel, having studied in Japan, let me greet you. Kanreki omedetou gozaimasu. The 60th birthday is very special for the Japanese. And indeed, this is a very special day for Fidel and for our institute. Okay. Let me start my talk with this slide. If you don't know, now you know. Fidel is a metal rat. He wasn't born in the year of the ox, as we are in now, but at the tail end of that rat year. And he says his mother craved balut, or the fermented egg, duck embryo, when she was pregnant with him. Maybe it's true, you would see a full growth of hair on Fidel after a few days of going unshaven. Here's one more thing. Fidel's full name is Fidel Brian St. John. He was born in Manchester, England. Maybe even in 1961, we already had a UK variant. And this UK variant is deadly and highly infectious. If you are a fan of Korean drama, then you know about this series which featured a well-loved king who also happened to be a mathematician, who would be able to charm people by talking about math. And Fidel comes to mind. Fidel certainly charmed many people, especially, or including our elder colleagues and many women. Here you see pictures of Fidel, the lone male in these pictures, and there are many more. Of course, I excluded those with young women, but the attraction to Fidel covers all genders. Okay? If you have talked to Fidel, then you know that when he speaks to you, he looks at you straight in the eye, and the effect is deadly, mesmerizing. It is a lethal weapon that could melt and charm the coldest of hearts. Making, in this photo, the journalist Cés Oreña Drilon, also a UP alumna, declare Fidel as the most eligible chancellor, the most eligible. We all hear the saying, age is just a number. And we sort of understand what that means, connecting our biological age or chronological age with how we really feel. My problem with this saying is that, is this 3 words just a number? For mathematicians, numbers are just not numbers. 60 means many things to mathematicians, even non-mathematicians, and here are just some of them. And Fidel delights in these things, properties of numbers, from very simple ones like 60s to more complicated equations like ones of Ramanujan that you saw earlier. Fidel is a number theorist, as you all know, specializing in algebraic number theory, elliptic curves, and applications, including coding theory. The great prince of mathematics, Carl Friedrich Gauss, said that mathematics is the queen of the sciences, and arithmetic, really referring to number theory, is the queen of mathematics. Yes, there are many queens in mathematics. But he also added that the enchanting charms of this sublime science, number theory, are revealed only to those who have the courage to go deeply into it. People like Fidel. Fidel, in fact, wrote an early paper that gave an elementary proof of Gauss' principal genus theorem. In his master's thesis, he worked on some quadratic number fields and reciprocity laws. One of the biggest or greatest achievements in mathematics was Andrew Wild's proof of Fermat's last theorem in 1993 or 1994 to be exact, a problem in number theory that eluded many of the greatest mathematicians for over 350 years. Part of the big attraction was that the problem was easy to state and understand and began from a very simple object, the right triangle and the Pythagorean theorem. Things that were known by ancient Babylonians more than 2,000 years ago. I think Fidel is attracted to problems like these that have a long history and would connect to many parts of mathematics. When Fidel was a student in Japan, starting his graduate studies, this problem was still not yet solved, and certainly he and his professors and his group then read many things and studied many things about this problem. But Fidel's dissertation and own doctoral problem involved a different thing, but again referring to the same right triangle. This is the congruent number problem. And here you see Fidel lecturing. You can actually read the definition on the board. Very clear in Fidel's distinctive big handwriting. Fidel's dissertation was titled Congruent Numbers and the Tate-Shafarevich Group of the Elliptic Curve y squared equal x cubed minus n squared x. So let me talk about the congruent number first. Very easy to state. A positive integer or a whole number is congruent if it is the area of a right triangle with rational sides. Meaning, a number n is congruent if you can find rational numbers or fractions, r and s forming the sides of a triangle, so that r squared plus s squared equal t squared, and all three are fractions. And the congruent number n is the area of this triangle. So it's 1/2 times the base times the height. So Fidel, happy birthday. 60 is a congruent number. The right triangle with sides 8 and 15 has area 60. And if you want a simpler example, the right triangle with sides 3 and 4 and hypotenuse 5 has area 6. Smallest congruent number is 5. But then the sides wouldn't be whole numbers, but fractions. So again, a second birthday gift. This year, 2021, your 60th birthday year, is a congruent number. And here are the sides of this triangle, much more complicated now than our earlier examples. And here is a picture of a surprise greeting for Fidel on his birthday, following, of course, pandemic protocol guidelines. You can check that if a number is congruent using Tunnell's theorem, a more complicated expression, but then allows you to check whether any number is congruent or not. But then, in order to use Tunnell's theorem, you have to prove an even bigger problem, and this is the Birch and Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture. This is still unsolved to this day, and is one of 6 open Clay millennium problems. The solution of any one of those 6 is worth $1 million. So happy birthday, Fidel, again. You can write your birthday 2/13/2021, or as Filipinos do, or in a more logical way, maybe 13/2/2021. Both of these numbers are congruent, assuming the Birch-Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture. Of course, one can check. But then the sides, of course, become more complicated. And thank you, Dr. Jerome Dimabayo, one of Fidel's former master's students who also proceeded to get his PhD in Japan in number theory for these computations, including the ones I showed earlier. This is a webinar of the Coding and Number Theory group, and I was requested to give a talk. So I will do that before I run out of time. I don't intend to just talk about this lecture for the rest of my period, but I want to give you a glimpse of a topic called invariant theory. So you can think of invariant theory as a branch of abstract algebra dealing with actions of groups on spaces. The theory is really much more broad, but I will focus on a more restricted part of the whole theory, focusing on the classical problem of polynomial functions that do not change under transformations from a given linear group. And then I will give an application to coding theory. I'm doing this in the spirit of what I said earlier, hoping that Fidel will like it, because this is an old topic, maybe not as old as the congruent number theorem or the Fermat's last theorem, but old, but just the same, very important, very useful, finding uses up to this day. What are invariants? You can say invariants, but invariants are quantities or expressions that stay unchanged under certain operations or transformations. And you see them in many parts of mathematics or the sciences. For example, knot invariants can be used to distinguish knots. These are things like the crossing numbers and even more sophisticated ones like the Jones polynomial. Knot invariants remain unchanged under Reidemeister moves, or moves where you think of pulling or stretching some tangled telephone lines of the past. Okay? In topology, homology groups or cohomology groups also yield invariants of topological manifolds. Here's a non-mathematical invariant. And Dr. 𝐁𝐢𝐫𝐭𝐡𝐝𝐵 already hinted at this. These are Fidel invariants. In the Institute of Mathematics, maybe because of boredom or for amusement, we have this game of trying to figure out who one looks like. And it's not just finding someone who looks similar in features to you, but you have to sort of balance it in a yin-yang way, maybe like a plus or minus transformation. And on the first row, you see the famous actor Jackie Chan, and then an animated Jackie Chan. And those are Fidel lookalikes. And in the lower row, you see a character actor on the right and a comedian on the left. And everyone says Fidel is somewhere there in between or invariant, maybe the same. When Fidel became chancellor, this similarity to Jackie Chan became very nice because now we could call him Chancellor or Chancy Fidel, but we would prefer Jackie Chancy. I think it's more endearing. Here's a more serious example of an invariant. So suppose I take a homogeneous polynomial of degree 2. This is just a binary form of degree 2. And take the group of 2 by 2 non-singular matrices over the complex field of determinant 1. So that's SL2C. Then this group, elements of this group give a linear change of coordinates on a 2-dimensional vector space, sending, say, xy to the transformation ax plus y and bx plus dy. But this group also acts on the binary forms, or specifically on the coefficients of the binary forms, because we can get another polynomial, p prime, by replacing x and y with the earlier substitutions to get a new polynomial with coefficients p1 prime, p2 prime, and p3 prime. Okay? With the matrix A from the group SL2, we can find the relation between the two coefficients. So think of A as acting on the vector space of column vectors of coefficients, and P prime, the prime coefficients and the earlier ones would be connected by this matrix, a 3x3 matrix. And this actually gives a representation of SL2 in this general linear group of degree 3, which you can actually take to be SL3 also. Now, everyone look at this polynomial, and you will recognize this as the discriminant x2 squared minus 4x1, x3. And you can view this as a function from C3 to the complex field. And a calculation after substituting in P1, P2, P3, and P1 prime, P2 prime, P3 prime using the values from the earlier relation shows that this determinant, this discriminant does not change. So we say that the polynomial f of x1, x2, x3 is an invariant, okay, under this action of SL2C. let me set up this example more formally and quickly also. So if I start, and again, I will look at a more restricted setting. Let me take a finite group of linear transformations, or think of this as a subgroup of GLM. So an element of the group would be represented by T, and it sends the variables xi to this linear combination. So you can think of a T as a matrix, and T acts on the ring Cx1 up to xn. Now, if I take any polynomial in those variables, under the f of Tx, this transformed polynomial denotes the new one obtained by applying the transformation above to the variables x1 up to xm. And we say that a polynomial f of x is an invariant of G if f of Tx is equal to fx for all elements of the group. If you have an invariant f, then the square of f, the sum of f with another invariant, the product, these are all invariants, and so that the set of all invariants forms a ring. Let us denote this by Rg and call this the ring of invariants of the group. And if we consider the subspaces of homogeneous invariants of degree I, then we can decompose this ring into this sum, making this a graded ring, and you can find the elements of that ring. Okay? And there are many. For example, any symmetric function of polynomials f of Tx is an invariant of G if you start with an invariant f. One of the main problems of invariant theory is to describe the ring of polynomials. And for this, one seeks a polynomial basis. This is always possible to find, consisting of invariants, f1 to fr. And you hope that there is a nice basis or a good basis, and these bases always exist, consisting of algebraically independent homogeneous invariants, so that the ring can either be, with this good basis, it can either be described this way or maybe a bit with some extra terms. Okay? One of the useful tools in determining the ring of invariants is Molyen's theorem by the Russian Theodore Molyen. And this gives the number of this series is a generating function that counts the number of linearly independent invariants of degree I, okay? Given by the coefficient of these lambda i's when you expand this series on the right. Now, let me go to an application, coding theory. Let's start with a binary linear code. So think of it as a nice set of words from, in this case, let me focus on the alphabet of 2 letters. It's a vector space, and D refers to the minimum distance between 2 code words, N referring to the length of the code words, and K the dimension of the subspace. So here are some examples. Okay? The code of length 5 with just 2 words. This is a 515 code. This second code is a 322 code. And let me include 2 very important codes. Okay? The extended Hamming code of length 8 and the extended binary Golay code of length 24. We will meet them again after a few slides. Attached to any linear code is a polynomial which is called the weight enumerator of the code. And it's simply a polynomial that gives you the number of code words of a given weight. So this is some polynomial with a homogeneous polynomial, and so the number of code words of weight I is given by the coefficient a sub I. So this is very important and very useful. For some codes, it's easy to compute. For others, you will need some work to get the weight enumerators. Looking at our earlier examples, weight enumerators, the first code is just x to the 5 plus y to the 5. There's a code of weight 0 and a code of weight 1. Okay. Sorry, a code of, weight 5. Now, weight 5. And same for the next expression, a code of weight 0 and 3 code words of weight 2. Okay. And then I just include the expressions for the weight enumerators of the extended Hamming code and the extended Golay code. We will see them soon. Okay. One of the important theorems relating the weight enumerator is given by McWilliams' theorem. Okay? This is a relation between the weight enumerator of a code with the weight enumerator of its dual code, which I will no longer define. So, but if I take a very special class of codes which are said to be self-dual, which these are very important in code theory, and also with another condition that all the weights are divisible by 4, these are doubly even codes. Then with the C equal to C perp, because this is self-dual over the binary field with K equal 1/2 n, we can go back to the McWilliams identity and end up with the first expression. We can bring in this inside because this is a homogeneous polynomial. And the second equation because of the condition on the weights. Okay? So what this says is that this polynomial is unchanged by certain transformations, okay? Sending x to this quantity, y to this quantity for the first equation, and then for the second. Now, let me state a problem. And in this case, we want to find all polynomials satisfying those two equations. Those two equations coming from this binary self-dual doubly even codes. The two equations says that the polynomial W is invariant under these two matrices. And of course, under the group that these two matrices generate. It turns out to be a finite unitary reflection group of order 192. As I said, Mullian's theorem is a tool, so let's compute the Mullian series. And nice enough, we get a simple expression like this, and that is not unusual. You will get something like this, or perhaps something with terms on top. We can expand this expression as an infinite series, and that will give you the Mullian series. And now we interpret the coefficients of the series, which represent the number of invariants of a certain degree, well, shows that AI is 0 unless I is a multiple of 8. And then next, the presence of 8 and 24 here probably suggests that we consider invariants of those degrees. So here's the same series, and now this is the key. Suppose we are able to find two invariants, one theta of degree 8 and a second phi of degree 24. We can form the products of these invariants, and let's see what we get. Well, we have one invariant of degree 0, the constant polynomial 1. Theta is an invariant of degree 8. The square of theta is an invariant of degree 16. And then you get two invariants of degree 24, theta cubed and your phi. Two invariants of degree 32, theta to the 4 and the product of theta and phi, and so on. But what do you notice? these numbers that appear here are the coefficients that appear in our Molian series. So what does that say? Well, this says that if these invariants are linearly independent, and this is equivalent to say to theta and phi being algebraically independent, we find that the number of invariants obtained from these products for each degree are exactly the coefficients in the Molian series for G. So this gives us a solution to our problem. It is enough to look for those two algebraically independent invariants of degrees 8 and 24. Because then, for any polynomial satisfying our original invariance equations 1 and 2, you can write it in terms of just these two, theta and phi, giving us the ring of polynomials as this ring generated by those two expressions. And that's the reason why I mentioned the Hamming code and the extended Hamming code and the extended Golay code. Because the weight invariants of those codes are precisely polynomials of degree 8 and 24. And both of these codes are self-dual binary doubly even codes. And those expressions invariants are algebraically independent. So here's the solution. Let's do some more aesthetics. Again, this is the weight enumerator of the extended Hamming code. Let's call that theta. The Golay code, the extended Golay code, the longer expression, mathematicians want to make things look pretty, and after some manipulation, we can take as phi this expression, which can be obtained by theta cubed minus phi over 42. And that gives a solution to our problem. And this gives a very important theorem about codes. Gleason proved this in 1970. And he found that the weight enumerator of any self-dual binary doubly even code is a polynomial in theta and phi. The same theorem can be proved using modular forms. A lot has transpired since the time this strategy was developed, working with a bigger class of different codes, encountering in the process very nice modular forms or Jacobi forms and other nice mathematics that Fidel loves to work on. Okay. So this example exhibits a typical behavior and suggested a strategy that turned out to be very useful to study codes. First, you convert assumptions about the code into algebraic constraints on the polynomials, in this case, the weight enumerator, and then you use invariant theory to find all possible polynomials satisfying the constraints, and then finally to interpret the results for coding theory. I think that's the end of my mathematical talk. I hope I have satisfied the coding and number theory group's request, but now I want to go back to talk about Fidel. And I have to do this. I don't know, I don't have a lot of time. Fidel comes from a very distinguished family. His father, of course, was former president and dean, and even his grandfather, a marine biologist, was dean of the former College of Arts and Sciences. President Nemenzo is a political scientist. The women in the family are very strong, his mother and his wife. Fidel and his brother were named after Marxists, okay? Leonid Brezhnev and Fidel Castro. But there's also the math genealogy. Fidel and I happen to share the same mathematical grandfather, and this is Shokichi Iyanaga. Fidel had the opportunity to attend many of these lectures because Iyanaga lived a long time, up to the age of 100. His students were our advisors, respectively, Professor Hideo Wada and Professor Michio Suzuki. Yanaga's advisor was the great number theorist Teiji Takagi, one of the few non-European or non-German students of the great Hilbert. Hilbert, who worked on many parts of mathematics, did a lot of the big results in invariant theory. And when he moved on to another area, you know, people lost interest because Hilbert wasn't doing invariant theory anymore, or he answered many problems already. So that's nice to do. And through the years, we have seen Professor Wada visit Manila at times because of Fidel. And he is alive. All those in black and white have passed on. Fidel was the founding head of the Coding and Number Theory Academic Group, a post he has now relinquished to Julius because of his other responsibilities in the university. But it's a group that's very dynamic, not so big, but really attracting many students. Here, these pictures on the left and this statement is a reference, or maybe an inside joke among Fidel students. And you can think of F here as Fidel, and S, I don't know, maybe the favorite student, Fidel's student number 1, or Fidel's substitute, slave, successor. So who's number 1? And this is the old movie about the prisoner asking who's number 2 or who's number 6. Okay. I think it is safe to say that without Fidel starting research in number theory, we will not be where we are now in the state of number theory in the Philippines. He has attracted really some smart and very dynamic young faculty and graduate students. All of these people now have PhDs. I think Jared is finishing. He would host them in many dinners at home, which we all looked forward to. And because of Fidel's group and his students, they have organized many conferences, many workshops, bringing in mathematicians and number theories from all over, holding trainings, not just for Filipinos, but for especially Southeast Asians. I think some of these professors are in our webinar today. Here's a research school on algebraic curves. Many more mathematicians, number theories like Professors Papalardi, and of course our speaker, Professor Waldschmidt. This is Pilar-Arceo. This is Professor Kenichi Shinoda, who was a professor in Sophia University, where Fidel and Julius both studied under Wada Sensei. This is Dr. Felix Muga, a good friend of Fidel, also a mathematician from the Ateneo de Manila University. Of course, Terence Tao has never been to the Philippines, but in this picture, it's Fidel's turn to be a fanboy. Yeah, meeting in a subway trains in Madrid, I think around 2006 or 2000, some time ago. Well, the great Pliny, the ancient Greek scholar Pliny the Elder said that home is where the heart is. And for Fidel, home is UP. He grew up inside the campus and he loves UP, his home to the present. Fidel was not only a witness to many historic events that unfolded in UP, but was involved in many of them, particularly from the time of martial law and to the present. These experiences and his attachment to and profound understanding of UP, I believe, have given him a genuine commitment and sensitivity to the university's and the community's traditions and culture, and the various challenges faced by UP and its residents and its students and faculty. I think these are traits and experiences that are serving him well now as Chancellor. I did not know Fidel personally when I was an undergraduate student. He entered the university 1 year ahead of me. We were contemporaries. But some of my friends knew him, and soon I would later know him by reputation as a student activist. In the 1980s, Fidel, as an activist, was one of the founding members of this activist singing group called Patatag. They took to the streets with their protest music, especially during the waning years of martial law in the early 80s. The dictator was weakening, especially after the assassination of Ninoy Aquino, and was becoming more desperate to prolong his grip on power. I took the title of this slide from the book of the writer Pete Lacaba, who talked about the first quarter storm in 1970 and related events, including the Diliman Commune of 1971, which we are now marking with its 50th anniversary, when UP was barricaded to prevent police from coming in. I think the description lasted for the whole period of martial law up to this time. And in 1984, I think you all know what happened. There was a peaceful rally on the anniversary of the declaration of martial law on September 21, which became very violent. And the brutality of the police made the students and the protesters continue rallying for days. And on the 27th of September, a bullet from an M16 rifle almost fatally hit Fidel Nemenzo. Okay. And here are pictures. Yeah, I wasn't around at that time. I was in the US studying for my own PhD. And it was a shock. I knew Fidel as a student activist, but I was more shocked when I found out he was a mathematics major, because when I left for abroad, he was doing something else. He was studying something else. But of course, everyone's thankful that Fidel survived that sad event. He considers September 27 as a second birthday. Soon, Fidel focused again on his studies, first taking up master's and then coming back to teach in UP for about a year or two and returning to Tokyo to do his PhD. These pictures were taken in 1997 in Fidel's apartment on the left. I was visiting Tokyo at that time for a conference and was fortunate to be in that group that went up Mount Fuji. I think Fidel has climbed to the peak many times. Let me add something to what Kayan earlier said. In this particular climb in July 1997, Fidel almost didn't make it to the top. His stomach was really so bad, and at some point, maybe the 9th or the 8th, 8A, 8B, I don't remember when, he almost gave up. But then we all made it to the top, at least some of these people in the picture. Fidel joined the department in 1992. We were very young then, very idealistic, and talked about our dreams for the institute and for the university. We were wearing shorts, and not me in this picture, or at some point, batik shirts, as in this other picture a year later with the same people. With favorite teachers of Fidel, including Professor Ocampo, who probably was his first teacher in elementary number theory, and Professor Corazon Villalobos, who was his teacher in high school. I remember at that time, Fidel was reprimanded by an official of our institute or department then, that official, he didn't appreciate Fidel's very short shorts. But, Fidel would continue wearing them for some time. I mean, through the years, our department with Fidel have grown closer. We would meet with our children, with all our friends or our colleagues. Even up to this time, a year ago, around this time, just after Fidel was appointed or elected as Chancellor, we came to visit one of our old math professors who was 95 years old, I think, at that time. Fidel is a family man. And we all know his loving son, Anton Mulawin. So Fidel is Anton's son. Maybe you will notice the similarity from the headgear. Here is Marivic with Anton and my wife a few days after Anton's birthday. But Fidel was also family to many of us. Our children grew up as knowing each other, meeting during parties. Here is Anton, and that's my son Benjamin. Their birthdays are 1 day and 3 years apart. My wife and Fidel's birthdays are 1 day apart. Here is another member of this family. This is Tintin Roque, daughter of Dr. Marian Roque. They are all 3 years apart and all solo children of their mathematics professor parents. Our math family, it has been has kept its energy high. In the last 2 decades, it has grown, but it has always kept its fondness for laughter and adventure. Teaching, research, and publications are constantly improving and expanding. Fidel has always been a big part of this, and he will always stand out for many other things: his colorful and noisy bangles, his constant battle with high blood pressure, his wonderful lectures and talks, many fun days and nights in his house, or good food, music, and stories, and many unforgettable and funny incidents. Fidel is known to have lost his student's thesis in a market in Quezon City, losing also his airplane ticket, missing his flights. And everyone knows about Fidel's, and Kayan mentioned, fondness for eating street food, especially abroad, especially in the riskiest looking hole in the walls. Proof, Blaise Pascal said that the dull minds are never intuitive or mathematical. And maybe Pascal was right. Let me just flash a few pictures of our fun Institute of Mathematics. This raft, we do this when we go to conferences outside Manila, either in the province or abroad, and other adventures like whitewater rafting. And we love dressing up. You saw one picture earlier in Kayan's talk. You see here the math faculty through the years, and this is a constant. 2012, we again dressed up. Here I am, because in this picture in the middle, I just came from a meeting, but you can think of me as dressing up in a high school teacher's uniform or costume, but I made up for it and came up as a pirate a few minutes later. And then we are not afraid to go out in the streets and parade as an institute in this zany costume scheme. We did it again in 2019. And even under the pandemic, we held meetings in costumes. In case, I think I flashed too quickly and you might have missed Fidel in his photos. So here's a close-up of Chancellor Fidel Nemenzo with his wife Maribic and our dear late friend, Dr. Noli Reyes. I don't know what costume this is, maybe the Bride of Frankenstein or something. Frankenstein's monster turned Raggedy Ann doll. Fidel has been recognized for many of his research work and teaching, including the prestigious Achievement Award from the National Research Council and UP Diliman's Chancellor's Award for Most Outstanding Teacher. And everyone will really testify to how well-deserved these awards are. He became an administrator around the mid-2000s, early first, when he was appointed as the coordinator of the Science and Society program, specifically running the very important course called the Science, Technology, and Society course. And then he became associate dean. I was the dean at that time, and I got Fidel as associate dean, but his term, which he also took over from someone else, was cut short because he would eventually move to the central UP Diliman administration. But let me talk about the Science and Society program. The course itself, STS, was quite problematic and unpopular before Fidel came in, but he was able to revitalize it, and it is now a very important course, bring in ideas connecting science, technology, and society, and other disciplines. And Fidel, then all the way to his work as Vice Chancellor for Research, really pushed this these ideas of science and society, and bring together disciplines, not just the STEM disciplines, but also the other disciplines. For the first time, the UP Diliman had a Science, Technology, and Society, or Science and Technology Month. We've always had Arts and Culture Month, but this, under Fidel's term, we had a forum on Science Society. This is the Science and Society logo that Fidel designed. I'm not sure if they're still using it. And what better person to head this program than Fidel? We all know about Fidel's love for learning, love for books, not just in one area, but he read a lot. Mathematics and science, philosophy, history, and of course his favorite Marxist writers. One thinks of the Renaissance person, and maybe Fidel is one such person. Okay? I remember this painting of Don Quixote, one of the first few things I saw in Fidel's room when he was a new instructor in the department. As Vice Chancellor for Research and Development, he really pushed for a lot of interdisciplinary research. He was instrumental in many things like the development and eventual launch of the first Philippine microsatellite, a joint project of the Department of Science and Technology and the Japan Space Agency, of course led by UP students. And here, during the launch with the small microsatellite is Fidel somewhere, I think that's Fidel. He was president of MSP for many years and went around the country strengthening mathematics, strengthening our regional chapters, even attending Jollibee parties. Now, but this is really a party for Carmela Lau, who just got a silver medal, first silver medal after a long time in the International Mathematical Olympiad. Because of mathematics and his work in UP, Fidel has been all over the country and outside I have gone with him on many talks and trips. One of the last, or one of the more recent ones, being a talk to the southernmost island of the Philippines, Tawi-Tawi, okay, where Fidel is eyeing this stingray or fish in the market, as expected. And of course, Michel Waldschmidt will talk about this, but Fidel's work extended beyond the Philippines, bringing him especially in Southeast Asia, developing and strengthening mathematics in countries like Cambodia and Myanmar. As president of MSP and SEAMS, eventually, he was also very active in the formation of the mathematical societies of Cambodia and Myanmar. And here are pictures of Fidel as president of the Southeast Asian Mathematical Society. And you see colleagues and friends like Ling San, who's a fellow number theorist. Fidel talking about mathematics being everywhere in the International Congress of Mathematics in 2014. And Fidel with many heads of national mathematical societies. Okay. I'm closing soon, and what do I want to say? Well, first is this poem or blessing for Fidel. I don't think he really needs it, but the words are, I think, are nice to read. Wishing our leaders to think of their positions as vocations, to have perspectives larger than the ordinary ones, to have passion and creativity, to have the wisdom to balance compassion and courage to make maybe difficult decisions. And finally, ending with a wish that our leaders have integrity of soul. I think Fidel already has all of this. In the last 2 decades, well, what else do I want to say? The pandemic has altered and disrupted our lives and remains to be Fidel's biggest challenge as he leads the university. But I think we can all take comfort in the confidence that some things will never change. Fidel's calming presence, listening ear, gentle spirit, and passion for love for math, the university, and our country. I think these are Fidel's invariants. Maraming salamat, Fidel. Thank you very much for all your service and your friendship. We wish you continued success, good health, and happiness always. Much love. And if you are feeling down and need to rise to the occasion, maybe we can all go back. We can both go back to Zamboanga, where Fidel found this thing, and if it's too small, here's a close-up. Maybe it's a Viagrant, not a variant, a Viagrant. So, yeah, that's Fidel for you. And in closing, I want to end with this last slide, a slide of the philosopher mathematician Bertrand Russell, a favorite of Fidel and his father, favorite of many of us. And also because our next speaker just recently received the Bertrand Russell Prize. So what is this? What are these two quotes? Well, they remind me of Fidel. Russell said, there was a footpath to New South Gate, and I used to go there alone to watch the sunset and contemplate suicide. I did not, however, because I wished to know more of mathematics. And secondly, he said, the secret to happiness is this: let your interests be as wide as possible. Fidel reminds me of this quotation scheme because he will forever want to know more about mathematics and forever will keep on expanding his interests so that he leads a happy life, which is what we all wish for him. So, belated happy birthday, Fidel. Thank you very much. And thank you all, Gino and the organizers, for this opportunity. I'm sorry if I, as usual, went a little bit over time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Balmaceda. I forgot to mention in my introduction that if there will be an archivist for our institute, it will be actually Professor Balmaceda. He has a vast collection of our photos and really remembers the exact photo appropriate for every occasion. Okay. Our next speaker does not need further introduction. Being a world-renowned expert in the Okay. Being a world-renowned expert in the field of transcendental and transcendental number theory and Diophantine approximation, and being an author of over 160 publications in several journals and textbooks, and actually has over 100 reviews in Math Sci and Central Blatt. He also held a number of several positions in different math organizations, including being president of the French Mathematical Society and vice president of the SAMPA. I hope I said it correctly. Okay. And he's also involved in bringing mathematics and mathematical cultures to third world countries. The one I personally know is his contributions to Cambodia, Laos, and other countries in Southeast Asia. And for this achievement, he got the 2021 Bertrand Russell Prize, as mentioned by Professor Balmaceda. This would be, I guess I'm wrong, but I think this is his latest award, added to his already many prestigious awards. I first came to know or to meet Professor Waldschmidt personally sometime in 2013 when we hosted the SIMPA School on algebraic curves over finite fields. But way back before August, he was already our visiting professor. He came ahead of the other lecturers. I hope you could see him here. Yeah, I think he's there at the corner, upper left-hand corner. And here's a better picture of Michel. Okay. Beside him is Rickman and Lucky, the one who spearheaded this activity. And he would come back again in 2017 during the Southeast Asian Mathematical Society. And I think his greatest contribution to the Philippine mathematics is that through him we were able to connect with prominent number theorists. Okay, for example, I saw some pictures a while ago. I think I saw Peter Stephenhagen. Okay, but some of the names I remember that he brought in the Philippines is Ronescu, Francesco Papalardi, Pollack, the student of Carl Pomerantz, Irina, and so on and so forth. Okay, but I guess it would be best to introduce you now to give the floor now to Professor Waldschmidt.
Thank you very much, Julius. So, do you hear me? It's okay? So, first of all, I would like to say happy birthday to Fidel. I am very glad to congratulate you on this occasion. And also, I thank the organizers who had the great idea of organizing this session and also to invite me. And to start with, I would like to share with you something. I will try, I don't know whether it will work or not. I will try to show you some video. And so do you see something? I share my screen? This video was recorded in December. And at that time, I did not know that I would have the great opportunity of being with you today. And this is in French, but it is 1 minute and 11 seconds. And after that, I will translate it to you in English. So you will tell me if it works.
J'ai effectivement beaucoup collaboré, j'ai beaucoup de très bons souvenirs. En sélectionner un, je dirais que c'est peut-être quand je rencontre des mathématiciens bien établis qui me disent qu'ils ont commencé leur carrière, ils ont connu la recherche mathématique grâce à des écoles du SIMPA. Et je parlerai peut-être de Fidel Nemenzo, que j'ai rencontré pour la première fois au Cambodge. Depuis, je l'ai rencontré de nombreuses fois, mais j'ai rencontré au Cambodge. Il était venu donner un cours je donnais aussi un cours à ce moment-là. Michel en a donné. Enfin, il y a eu une action assez importante du SIMPA au Cambodge. Et Fidel Nemenzo est venu et il nous a raconté quand j'ai commencé à faire de la recherche, il n'y avait pas de mathématiques aux Philippines. C'est grâce à l'aide internationale et au SIMPA que les mathématiques ont été développées dans mon pays, aux Philippines. Et il disait, bon, c'est une sorte de dette que j'ai d'aider des pays qui sont moins favorisés à se développer en mathématiques. Donc je pense que c'est ça ce que je retiendrai comme plus belle expérience.
Okay, so was it clear enough? So what I was telling there is that excuse me, it is. So what I was saying is that I was interviewed by the SIMPA in last December. And the question which was asked to me was, you participated to a number of activities related to the SIMPA. Could you tell us what is your best experience? And my answer is that what I like the most is when I meet some mathematicians, some well-established mathematicians, who tell me that they started to do research and to know mathematics thanks to some activity like the one which are done by the SIMPA. And the example which I take is my meeting with Fidel in Cambodia when we were both giving some lecture there, some course, and there were many people who acted in this program. And Fidel told me when I was a student, there was hardly any mathematics in my country, but thanks to the international support, the mathematics developed in my country, in Philippines, and I had the kind of debt to this country. And so now I try to help other countries like Cambodia to develop mathematics. So this is the translation of what I just told in December. And so the title which I took is with Fidel from Phnom Penh to Diliman, some personal reminiscences. And I mentioned, of course, so this is the interview. I mentioned Cambodia, and indeed, we gave some course at the Royal University of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. We gave many courses, both of us, and we met there. So this is a picture that you saw from Joey. This is the Royal University of Phnom Penh class number theory in 2012. And so we had some students, and from these students here, many of them had a PhD after this program. They went abroad and they continued their study to get a PhD. And so we met in Anize Hotel in Phnom Penh in March 2012. And this picture was sent to me by Fidel a few days ago. And I have a very fond memory of our meeting there. Fidel taught another class in 𝐂𝐢𝐝𝐵. It was in 2014. The support for this program was from the SIMPA, but also from the IMU, International Mathematical Union, Volunteer Lecture Program. This is a great program which support activities. And in fact, this program started from what was done in Phnom Penh and in Cambodia. At that time, Herb Clements came and visited Phnom Penh and saw what we were doing. And starting from this experience, he developed the VLP, Volunteer Lecture Program, which is running very, very well right now. So it's a very good program. But in fact, my meeting with Fidel in 2012 was not the first time that we met. We met in Hong Kong in 1993. There was a conference, a number theory conference, and Harold Stark was giving a course at that time. And so this is a picture of Fidel, and this is the place where he gave his first conference talk on Gauss genus theorem. So I attended this lecture by Fidel. This is a picture which is taken also for this number theory meeting in Hong Kong with Fakir Bhatti, who is from Lahore in Pakistan. There is San Ling Guo, who is a student, who was a student of Ribet, and Chan Rang, who was a student of his round. So it was mentioned by Joey that Fidel Nemenzo was a student of Hideo Wada, and that the dissertation of Fidel was on congruent numbers and the Tate-Shafarevich group of the elliptic curve y square equal x cube minus n square x. And so if you look at the genealogy of Wada, he was a student of Shokichi Yanaga, and Shokichi Yanaga had two students, Wada had two students, who was Julius Basila and Fidel Nemenzo. So I would like to say a few words about Shokichi Yanaga. As I just mentioned, he had the student who was Wada, but his thesis advisor was Takagi, as it was mentioned before. And he had 23 students and 935 descendants. So the 23 students are listed here, but I will not insist on this because it's a little bit too small. But if I speak of Shokichi Yanaga, it is for the following reason. As was told by Joey, he passed away, he was more than 100 years old. And he was invited to come to Nancy in 1967-68 during the academic year. Nancy is my hometown. This is the place where I am born, and I made my studies in Nancy. He was invited in Nancy by Jean Delsarte for this academic year. And it turns out that Delsarte passed away just after this academic year on November 68. But at that time, I was a student in Nancy, and the course on algebra was given by Yanaga. And Yanaga, instead of giving a course on algebra, gave a course on number theory. But he called this algebra because it was supposed to be a course on algebra. And I was very much interested by this course, and I decided I want to do algebra. In fact, it turns out that I did number theory, and I found that what Yanaga taught me was number theory and not algebra. It's very closely related, but the course of Yanaga was on a small book of Samuel, algebraic number theory. And so I learned number theory thanks to the grandfather of Fidel, mathematical grandfather. During his stay in Nancy, Yanaga met Pierre Kaplan, who was teaching in Nancy. He taught me a course at that time. And he came back, Yanaga came back to Japan with Pierre Kaplan, and Pierre Kaplan became the director of the Maison Franco-Japonaise, and he was the director from 68 to 70. So this was, of course, much before Fidel went to study in Japan. So the thesis of Fidel was on congruent numbers and the Tate-Shafarevich group of the elliptic curve y square equal x cubed minus n square x. As you know from the previous lecture, but I repeat it, a congruent number is just an integer, which is the area of a right triangle with 3 rational number sides. Here, the sides are integers, and the area is 6. But the condition is that the sides are rational numbers, and they can have denominators. For example, 5 is a congruent numbers, and if you want to get 5 as the area of a right angle triangle, you take the 2 small sides, which are 20/3 and 3/2. So the hypotenuse will be 41/6 because of this equation, and the area will be 1/2 of the product of the 2 small sides, which gives just 5. So this is an example of a congruent number. And it turned out that I was aware of the problem of congruent numbers long back, because I had attended a lecture by a mathematician, Jean Lagrange, from the University of Reims. And he gave a lecture in the Séminaire de Lange-Piso-Poitou as early as 1974. And during this lecture, he gave a table of congruent numbers less than 1,000. In this table, he gave a list of integers less than 1,000 for which he did not know whether they were congruent or not. You see that there are not so many of them, but nevertheless, there were a lot of numbers, integers, for which the answer was not known. And so he constructed a table of congruent numbers, which was published in 1977. And if you look at the numbers which are congruent, you see that the list is here, and you see the number 157. So he claimed that 157 is a congruent number, and this is the numbers for which he claimed that they are not congruent numbers. But in fact, this table were conditional to something which is called the parity conjecture for elliptic curves. And these were not theorems, these were just tables. And if you want to prove that one of the number of the table is a congruent number, this is not that easy. And if I take the example of 157, the proof that it is a congruent number was given by 𝐂𝐚𝐧𝐜𝐞𝐥, and the method of 𝐂𝐚𝐧𝐜𝐞 used elliptic curves and some very clever way of finding the solution. And he explained in this paper, which is in German here, in this paper in 1989, he explained the method, and he says that 157 is congruent, but he says this page is too small, and I cannot give the full solution. But in fact, he had the full solution, and the total number of numerator and denominator of the hypotenuse is about 100. So these are a very large number, and this is the smallest solution for this case for 157. The main contribution to the solution of this question was given by Tunnel, who gave a condition for a square-free positive integer to be congruent. Square-free means that it is not divisible by the square of a prime number. And it is that there are rational numbers xy, so that y square equal x cubed minus n square x this equation is satisfied. So this is the paper of Tunnel, which came in 1983. And good references are by Koblitz and by Kolmez, and the references are here. Koblitz is a classical reference on this question. I would like to continue by taking some slides which I got from Fidel. It is a talk that he gave in Mandalay in Myanmar in 2013 for the International Conference on Science and Mathematics Education in Developing Countries. So he spoke on the numbers, triangles, and curves. I will not give the full talk. I will just select a few slides. This is a slide which I like very much. You see that this is a Sudoku, and it is called Math Without Numbers. So you see some pictures that you recognize, like Euler, Gauss, and this is Graham, and I suppose you recognize this one. This is Einstein and Ramanujan. And so this is one of the pictures that Fidel showed during this talk. Also, in the same lecture, he did not tell me before, but in the same lecture, he showed this slide, which is from the College Mathematical Journal. And you see a right-angle triangle, and you see what is supposed to be a proof that if you take a triangle with the sides which are 3, 4, and 5, then it is a right-angle triangle. And I was puzzled when I saw this slide during the talk. What is wrong with this diagram? I suppose that you will figure out what is wrong with the diagram. So he gave some historical survey on this question of congruent numbers. And he gave a reference to Arab geometers Al-Karaji in 953 to 1029. If n is a positive integer, is there a rational triangle with area which is n? And this is a reference. And he asked in the same way, are there rational numbers R, S, and T, so that R squared plus S squared equal T squared, and RS equal to n? So this is just the area n equal RS over 2. And he gave examples of Fibonacci that 5 and 7 are congruent numbers. For 5, I gave the sketch of the proof with this triangle of the sides 20 over 3 and 3 over 2 for the small sides, and the hypotenuse is 41 over 6. And for 7, the rational numbers are a little bit larger, but this is nothing to compare to the example of Donzaguier. And one result of a number which is not congruent is the example of 1, which was a result of Pierre de Fermat. And as you know, Pierre de Fermat was a lawyer, and he's the one who suggested what is called the last theorem of Fermat, which is the main Fermat's theorem. And I will speak just in a few minutes about the little Fermat theorem. So he had a very important contribution in the 17th century. So these are examples of congruent numbers with rational sides. And we find again 5, 6 that we have seen before, and 7. And what is really remarkable is that I told you that in 1977, we had a very partial knowledge of the congruent numbers, which were less than 1,000. And Fidel was able in 1998 to give a table of all congruent numbers less than 40,000. What is remarkable is that to obtain such a result, he needs to compute some rank of elliptic curves. And this involves, of course, some computation, but this is not only computation. This is also a lot of theory which is needed to use the two descent and to decide whether the rank of an elliptic curve is positive or not. And he gets this for most n, as it is said here. So this is really a very important contribution to congruent numbers, but also to elliptic curves. I will not go too far in the mathematics. I was told that there may be some people attending this talk who are not mathematicians. So for them, I thought that I could explain you some mathematical magic trick. So this trick is the following. In fact, my grandson, who is 10 years old, is with me here at home, and I made this trick with him. You pick a 1 or 2 digit number, you raise it to the 5th power, for example, using a calculator. You do not tell me the two-digit number that you started with, but you tell me the large number you got. And I can tell you what is the number that you started with. So if you take a one-digit number, it's rather easy. I gave you the fifth power of the integers from 1 to 9. And so if you tell me that the solution, the fifth power that you get is 32,768, I tell you immediately that you started from 8. But how can I do if you give me a larger number? The first thing is that you have to know what is the size of 10 to the 5, 20 to the 5, up to 90 to the 5. So you have to know roughly what is the size of these numbers. And so I gave the exact values which are here. And then if I want to know what is the first digit, it's quite easy. If you tell me that the large number is 229,345,007, then I see that this number is between 40 to the 5 and 50 to the 5. And therefore, the number that you started with is between 40 and 50. And so I can tell you from the size of this number, what is the first digit. So if your large number is this one, the first digit will be 4, because it is between 40 to the 5 and 50 to the 5. But I am more interested with the second digit. How do you find the second digit? And the trick is the following. When you raise a number to the fifth power, the result has the original digit as its final digit. You check it because you're interested in the last digit, so you do not take into account the previous one. You just have to look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 9 to the 5. And you look that the last digit of 1 to the 5 is 1, for 2 to the 5 it's 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so if you tell me that the number that which is the fifth power is this one, which I told you that it is between 40 to the 5 and 50 to the 5, so the first digit is 4, but the last digit is 7. So I can tell you that the last digit of the number you started with is 7. Okay, so this is a trick, but a mathematician will ask what is interesting in this trick. And I would like to explain why we find this property, which you check by hand, that the last digit is the same as the original digit for the last one. And this is a special case of Fermat's little theorem. The theorem of little Fermat theorem is that if P is a prime, so like 2, 3, 5, 7, and A a positive integer, when you compute A power P minus A, you find a multiple of P. For example, 5 is a prime number, so A to the 5 minus A is a multiple of 5. This is a special case of Fermat's little theorem. But also it is a multiple of 2 because if A is even, this is even. If A is odd, then it is an odd number minus an odd number. Again, it's even. And therefore it is a multiple of 10. So this Fermat's little theorem is a basic result. There are many proofs of this, but I will not go into the proof. And this has a lot of consequences. One of the consequences is the theory of finite fields. The theory of finite fields rely on this property in a heavy way. And finite fields is a basic tool for coding theory. And I do not forget that we are in the coding and number theory academic group. So I wanted to say something about coding theory. It's also used, Fermat's little theorem is used in cryptography in many ways. And it is used in elliptic curves. And so, as you have seen, for congruent numbers, elliptic curves play a very important role. And more generally, it is used in Diophantine geometry. Diophantine geometry is a wide topic, which includes Diophantine equations and Fermat's last theorem, for example. So it was mentioned before that I came to the Philippines in 2013 for a research school. It was on algebraic curves over finite fields and application. And I gave a course on finite fields. So this is really one of the topics which is very relevant to the research in the Philippines. So this is a picture which, again, was sent to me by Fidel a few days ago. This SIMPA school was organized by Fidel and myself. And I have a fond memory of this school and of my stay in the Philippines. It turned out that I was with Francesco Papalardi, and we went on the seaside. And it is during this trip that Francesco suggested that he organizes some conference for my 60th birthday 3 years later. But also during this trip, we met Pauline, and with her, we visited a market. And I mentioned that because Joey said that Fidel's mother craved balut. She took for some fermented egg when she was pregnant. And thanks to Pauline, I had the same experience in 2013. So this is a very good fond memory that I have of this SIMPA school. I came back in 2017, and the topic of the SIM school was topics on elliptic curves. And I gave a course on basic theory of elliptic curves. In fact, in between, we had met at several places. For example, we had met at ICM Hyderabad, and we met also in Seoul for the other ICM with Fidel. And I plan to come back to Manila in January next year, 2022. There will be a SIMPA course, SIMPA school, Introduction to Galois Representation and Modular Form and their Computational Aspects. And I will share a course with Jérôme on elliptic curves with complex multiplication. So this will be in January 10 to 21, 2022. And in fact, during the last year, I did not went abroad, which is something which did not happen to me for many, many years. But I am looking forward to come back to Manila next year. Okay, to finish my lecture, I said that in the title that it is from Phnom Penh to Diliman campus. And here you have the picture of Diliman campus. And this is the oval that there was a picture which I will show again of Fidel running on this oval. And this is the oval that you see here. And so from this paper, which was published by EBS-CBN News, which is a very interesting paper written on Fidel Nemenzo, I took this picture, which you have seen before. And this is a picture of Fidel running along the academic oval during a race on the campus in the late 70s. And for those who know a little bit of running, Fidel told me that he was able at that time to run the 10,000 meters in 33 minutes, which is remarkable. The 800 in 57 seconds. And he was able to do 2 laps of the academic oval in 15 minutes and 1 lap, which is 2.2 kilometers, in less than 7 minutes. This is really a great achievement. So this was the talk which I wanted to give. I am very pleased to have the opportunity to be with you. It's you are like a family, and I am a member of your family. So I am very thankful to you for this invitation, and I wish a happy birthday to Fidel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michel. We will be happy to host you again this January 2022 when we have our SIMPA school. Okay, the next part of our activity is the playing of the video compiled by Lucky and others. Okay, so Lucky is one of our youngest PhD. I'm correct, Lucky, right? The one is younger than you right now. You're our most recent graduate in coding and number theory. He's been one of our students and right now the most energetic. So he has all the energy for hosting this event. And yeah, okay, I stand corrected. I think the two of them, Vickman and Lucky, are the youngest member of our faculty, right? Of our coding and number theory group who got their PhD. So without much further things to say, I'll now give the floor to Lucky.
Fidel, happy 60th birthday. May you be happy and healthy always and enjoy your life as much as you can. Happy birthday.
Hi, Fidel. Happy birthday. Thinking about it, it's really amazing that we have known each other for almost 3 decades. I still remember when we first met in Hong Kong at this conference. I'm so thankful that you and I have shared so much in common. Our interest in number theory, coding theory, also our interest in serving the math community through the math societies, and in university administration and leadership. Amazing. But most importantly to me is the friendship that you and I share throughout all these 3 decades. So many more good years to come for you. I wish you all the best, good health, and happiness. Let's hope that it won't be too long before you and I see each other in person again. Happy birthday again.
Hello, Fidel. This is Peter from Amsterdam. And as you see, this weekend in the Netherlands, it's very special, not just because you are turning 60, but also because the weather is exceptionally nice and everybody goes skating. So, as you see, the population cannot be tamed by a virus, and I'm also pretty sure that within a year we can meet again for the SIMPA school in January, which is coming up. And for now, I'd like to say happy birthday and enjoy your time in Manila, and see you in January. Bye-bye.
Hello friends. Dear Fidel, it has been a great meeting you and working with you in the SIMS activity in the past almost 20 years. Like with most my Filipinos friends, most of the time I met Professor Nemenzo was at the SIMS council meetings, before, during, and after his presidency of SIMS. And of course, at the SIM regional conference, as well as at the IMC and ICM conference. For myself, the friendship with Filipino mathematician started with Professor Polly Wisi, who introduced by Professor Carlene and also Professor 𝐂𝐤𝐫𝐭𝐡𝐝𝐵. Afterward, I know more. First, Professor Fidel Nemenzo, Professor Carlene Arceo, Professor Jose Balmaceda, Professor Marian Rose, and Professor Ernie Lope, and of course, some UP students who joined the workshop, the conference, the summer school here in Indonesia, and of course at other places. Professor Nemenzo have shown us how he helped the student. For example, he contact me how to get a good accommodation for his student during their stay here in Indonesia for the conference, especially in Jogja. Dear Fidel, all members of the Department of Mathematics UGM Indonesia, congratulate you on your 60th birthday. On this wonderful day, even though the COVID-19 is not finished yet, let us wish you happiness, health, well-being, and prosperity to your university. Enjoy, Professor Nemenzo. Thank you.
Hi, Fidel. Greetings from chilly Golden, Colorado. The weather may be cold, but my wishes for you on your 60th birthday are warm. This is a difficult time for all of us, but especially for you. However, I'm confident that with your excellent interpersonal and leadership skills, as well as your personal experiences, you will address and overcome the challenges that you're currently facing. It's a little over 10 years since we first met in Seoul, Korea. I soon discovered that you're not only an excellent mathematician and administrator, but a caring and compassionate individual. It is a great privilege to know you. Your friendship has certainly enriched my life. With my very best wishes on this special occasion.
Hi, Fidel. Happy 60th birthday. You look so young to be 60 years old. I'm always very impressed by your zen, coolness, and calmness. You are a number theorist, but I just like to tell you I don't believe in the numbers, especially when it's used to describe your age. Anyway, enjoy yourself. Have a happy birthday and hope that we can meet sometime soon.
Hello, this is Francesco Pappalardi from Italy. I would like to wish happy birthday to Fidel Nemenzo, my old friend and an inspiring model for Asian mathematics. He's a model for his equilibrium and enthusiasm in all the projects I had the privilege to share with him. I look forward to see him again next year in the Philippines first and in Laos, where I hope we're going to have another international conference for mathematics in developing countries. So happy birthday, Fidel, on your 50th birthday. No, I know it's your 60th birthday, but you also look so young that I guess you look 50 still. Happy birthday. Bye-bye.
Hi, Fidel. This is Sola from Yangon University of Education, Myanmar. Happy birthday to you, and I would like to say thank you for your contribution during the International Conference on Science and Mathematical Education for Developing Countries in Myanmar. Thank you again, and happy birthday to you.
Fidel, this is Michael Dorf from Brigham Young University in the United States, wishing you a wonderful 60th birthday. I just finished my 2-year term as president of the Mathematical Association of America. Fidel, I think the first time we met was in 2017 in Myanmar during the 10th International Conference on Mathematics and Mathematics Education in Developing Countries. You're a great example to us around the world as a mathematician, a promoter of mathematics, an educator, and a person who stands up for the rights of others. Again, I hope you had a wonderful 60th birthday, and I look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Hi, Sir Fidel. Gusto ko magpasalamat for always sharing your thoughts and your passion for math. I also thank you for the nationalism you always give and the friendship that you have shared with us, especially sa Kumaba Days, sa mga trips natin sa mga conferences. And I really appreciate that. So thank you. Happy birthday. I wish you good health. And may the good Lord bless you and your family. Happy 60th birthday.
Happy birthday, Sir Fidel, my kuya. Sir Fidel and I are mathematical brothers. Our father is Professor Hideo Wada. Our being brothers supports many conservation laws of science in the sense that the more he has it, the less I have. For example, good looks, charisma, and political tactics. Don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't have it, it's just that he has a lot of it. Once again, happy birthday, Sir Fidel!
Sir Fidel! Hello, everyone. Happy birthday, Sir Fidel. It is a great pleasure to be a part of this celebration of the birthday of my academic tatay. I first met Sir Fidel during my last year as a BS Math student. It was a time for me to find a research paper advisor. I first approached Ma'am Ninita Ocampo, and then she told me to ask Sir Fidel. I never met Sir Fidel before then, and at that time, he just came back from Japan. So he accepted me as one of his advisees. Actually, at first, I was quite anxious, thinking whether I will be able to finish my research paper. I do not have any prior background to number theory back then. It was only on the last semester that I took the elementary course in number theory under him. Sir Fidel also introduced me to coding theory during my MS when I took his course on Introduction to Algebraic Geometric Codes. Then he eventually became my MS thesis advisor. Our research through the years in coding theory have been fruitful, and so far it resulted to 4 papers co-authored with him. Sir, I am so grateful to you being there, supporting me in my career in math until now. Once again, sir, happy birthday, and I wish you more blessings.
Hi, Sir Fidel. Behind me was the blackboard in your office at the CS lab when you were the coordinator for the Science and Society program. I took this photo in 2010. Fermat's equation can be seen in the top left corner of the board. Fidel Brian St. John from Nemenzo, a very talented man, an unassuming teacher, a sincere colleague and friend, and a humble well-being with high thinking. You are a true inspiration to the young and aspiring mathematicians. Thank you, sir, for all the support and guidance that you gave me to achieve my goals, as well as to open new directions in math and in life. Last week, I gave you this note about the date of your 60th birthday. But then I thought, and I believe you would agree, that it was not so satisfying. So here's a revision to my birthday note. Happy birthday, Sir Fidel. I wish you good health and more people to inspire for years to come.
Hi sir, happy birthday po. Medyo matagal na po mula nung huli niyo akong naging estudyante, pero hindi ko po malilimutan na sa coding theory po ako nag-umpisa at kayo po ang aking gabay sa aking unang attempt at original research na nag-produce ng ating hit paper on constacyclic codes. Ang wish ko po sa inyo ay ma-enjoy ninyo ng lubos ang inyong pagka-chancellor. Mukha naman po nag-enjoy kayo nitong nakaraang taon. Sana po ay sumaya palalo. Ang masasabi ko lang po ay carry nyo, sir, ang puting buhok. Happy birthday po ulit at good luck po.
Happy birthday, Chancellor Fidel. Thank you for all those wonderful classes, especially the number theory classes. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng tulong at suporta. I wish you more success and good health. Happy birthday po.
Pagpupugay at pagbati sa iyo, Sir Fidel, sa iyong 60th birthday. I am so honored to be one of your students and to be mentored by you. I'm sure you have inspired so many young mathematicians inside and outside the country. And I just wish that you have more energy to continue what you're doing and continue serving the university, the country, and the people. Padayon.
Hi sir, happy birthday po. Nung lumapit po ako sa inyo nun para kunin kayong undergrad advisor, ang hinahanap ko lang po nun ay isang magtuturo sa akin ng number theory. Pero ang swerte ko kasi hindi lang advisor nakuha ko, kundi isa ring mentor. Ang dami kong natutunan at natututunan pa sa inyo sa loob at labas ng math. At hindi ko na muna iisa-isahin kasi sir, kulang yung 1 minuto eh. Siguro next time na lang, baka sa retirement party niya. Pero gusto ko lang sabihin na maraming salamat po. Tapos sa pagiging chancellor niyo naman, ang wish ko ay more fortitude and more patience kasi kailangan. Yun lang sir. Kung kailangan yung mag-distress, tawag lang kayo ha. At pag wala ng pandemic, labas ulit tayo for more math, more jazz, and more whiskey. Yun lang sir. See you around.
Hi sir, happy 60th birthday. Thank you sa lahat ng support na binigay niyo sa amin. And hope to see you soon. See you soon. Bye.
Well, hello there, IMath. It's been a while. Sir Fidel, happy birthday. Can I just say it's such a huge bummer that you reached your 60th during this pandemic while I'm out of the country. I don't get to eat your signature kinilaw while I amuse my ears with your usual jazz repertoire as we discuss, I don't know, math, philosophy, politics, history, music, general education, and the humanities, just life in general. As I look back to the memories I've shared with you, is just incredible, nay, overwhelming to think how much you have made an impact in my life this past decade. Who would have thought that the celebrity professor that is yourself would become eventually a mentor, a brother in arms, and if I may dare say, a friend, maybe even family to me. To me, that once impressionable, naive student just asking for a slot in your STS class. Kaya, mula sa kaibuturan ng aking puso, salamat sir sa lahat ng diskusyon, lahat ng payo, lahat ng tulong, sa mga kakatuwang karanasan mula sa paggalugad sa mga iskinita ng Hong Kong hanggang sa paghanap ng damit na batik sa Bali, habang sakay ng motorsiklo na ikaw ang nagdadrive. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you even just for listening to my rants. In fact, just thank you. Thank you for just having integrity. While I will never ever share your love for number theory, I will always be your comrade in your love for mathematics and the humanities and in guarding academic freedom. Very well then. Salute. I'm sorry I don't have a wine glass. This is even wine. This is just orange juice, okay? Well, to more years of mathematics, fights for reform and justice, and jazz. Happy birthday again, Sir Fidel.
To my Chancellor, Professor, colleague, mentor, and friend, without whom I probably would not be where I am right now. A role model in mathematical research, teaching and service to the people, with impeccable taste in music and literature to boot. Happy, happy birthday, Sir Fidel. Wishing you happiness and success, whatever that may mean to you in the years to come. Thank you for all you have done for me, and someday I hope to come back home and see you again. Hope you are safe and sound and having a good time with your friends and family and loved ones.
Okay. Thank you very much for the greeters and for Lucky for compiling everything. Our day will not be complete if we will not hear from our celebrator, my brother, Kuya Fidel. Sir, I give you now the mic.
Maraming salamat sa lahat. I'm here. My father is here, listening to all your wonderful talks, wonderful testimonies. You know, I'm really so touched. I don't know what to say. While listening to you, I was trying to compose what I wanted to say, but I was just so, I was just. I could not concentrate on what I wanted to say because I was just so immersed in all your stories. As you know, many of my relationships in our community, the mathematical and scientific community, are really based on and have led to deep and lasting friendships. Many of you have shared adventures with me. And these adventures have been either mathematical and non-mathematical, food adventures, travel adventures. First, I'd like to thank our two main speakers, Joey Balmaceda and then Michel Waldschmidt. Joey, first, maraming salamat. I've known you for over 40 years. Joey, who also lives the life of the mind, and one of the few in UP who really understands the university inside out. Maraming nakwento si Joey. Hindi niya nakwento, but I learned my coding theory from Joey Balmaceda. And thank you for sharing the aesthetics of invariants and codes. Natuwa ako sa iyong slide. Some aesthetics, because I know that the aesthetics of mathematics is one of the things that have held our community together. Michel, thank you for your sharing, Michel. As he said, I first saw him in 1993. That was an important year for me. I had just finished my master's, and that number theory meeting in Hong Kong was my first conference in number theory, my first time to give a talk. And Michel and Harold Stark were the main speakers of that conference. Of course, Harold Stark was one of my mathematical idols because of his wonderful paper on imaginary quadratic fields with the class number 1. But I remember Michel's talk because it was, I remembered it for its strangeness, because he talked about transcendental numbers. And at that time, I had just spent the last 3 years of my life talking about or studying algebraic numbers. But I mean, for number theorists, especially for those doing algebraic number theory, transcendentals are the underworld. So if the world of numbers is the sky, and the algebraic numbers are the stars in the sky, the transcendentals is that black background there. That uncountable set of numbers that are so strange. But it was for me, it was an introduction to the underworld of number theory, and I was just so fascinated. So I've followed your career, Michel, and so I was so happy when I finally met you in Hyderabad, in India in 2010, and I think that was when we started talking about having some joint projects in Southeast Asia, and in particular in the Philippines. And because of that meeting, I've developed a lot of friendships of number theorists, the colleagues that you brought to Manila. Time flies so fast. I'm sure Joey shares this feeling with me. Not just a few years ago, it felt like a few years ago, Joey, when we were among the youngest members of the mathematical community, and numbers like 50 and 60, which are so old and so out of reach. And just in a few years, we find ourselves there. I remember when we were beginning to organize international math meetings and mathematical lectures, where we'd be doing organizing the lectures and giving the lectures, giving out the invitations, and making sandwiches between the lectures. We did everything, and I guess organizing meetings is one of the great experiences of being a faculty member, especially in a department where we were so passionately trying to develop the culture of mathematics. Now I've spent the last time I was in the department or in the Institute of Mathematics, I don't even remember when. I passed by the institute many times a week, and I've always felt that it is my home. But now I spend more time in Quezon Hall. It's really an exciting time to lead our university during this time of pandemic and great challenges. It's exciting, but again, full of challenges. Exciting because there are no templates to run a university at a time like this. But I always feel that the Department of Mathematics, the Institute of Mathematics will always be my home. It is my comfort zone, and especially webinars like this really make me feel at home in the company of friends and mathematics and the love for ideas. I'm happy that the College of Science and the Institute of Mathematics are in good hands. And in particular, I'd like to say that the coding and number theory group, which is my own academic and research group, is in very good hands. It's a bunch of very passionate and enthusiastic young mathematicians. And I'm so happy to see many of them here. I feel that it's okay for me to be in Quezon Hall because when I look at the Institute of Mathematics, it's really grown and developed a solid culture in the last 20 years. And as I said, I may spend more time now in administration and in Quezon Hall, but Institute of Mathematics will always be my home. This will always be my closest circle of friends. This circle of friends is not confined to UP or the national mathematical community, but as Michel said, the international work in mathematics is very important, and I'm very grateful to many of the friends I see here from other countries who have done so much too for countries like the Philippines and other countries in Southeast Asia. Again, I don't know what to say. I just want to say that it's been so heartwarming and so touching to listen to all your stories and your sharing. And I thank all of you here for being part of this webinar. And I really look forward to the day when we can get together in person and share our love for mathematics, for music, and for life. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to my colleagues in the Coding and Number Theory group, those who organized this. Maraming salamat, maraming salamat, Vickman and Lucky. Julius, who's taken over the leadership of the group. And of course, our director, 𝐁𝐢𝐫𝐿. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyo. Thank you so much, dear friends.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sir Fidel. So, well, I was asked to close this now. And so again, thank you everyone for being here. And thank you, Sir Fidel. You're always and have always been an inspiration to us all. Happy, happy birthday. So now I'm actually allowing everyone to unmute. So if you wish to greet Sir Fidel, if you may also put in some messages. And again, thank you very much. And we also look forward to seeing you in the future in the next webinars of the Institute of Mathematics. The next one will be on March 8th. Okay. Thank you. See you then. Happy birthday, sir.
Salamat, Gino.
Salamat, Kayan. Salamat, Gino.
Birthday ulit.
Maraming
Happy
salamat.
birthday, Fidel.
Happy birthday ulit.
Birthday ulit, sir.
Hello, Sir Dodong.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, Fidel.
Happy birthday, Fidel.
Mayan. Salamat.
Birthday, Fidel.
Happy birthday, Fidel.
Hi, Peter. Hi. Hi.
Italy,
Francesco.
Hi, Fidel.
Hi, Henry. Hi, Claude. Thank you, everyone.
Fidel.
Salamat, Annette. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck pa ako, ah.
Hi pa ako.
Hi, everybody, Fidel.
Anong oras dyan pa ako?
Hi, everybody.
Nice.
Joke naman dyan.
Sir Joey, kailangan ka ba namin para sa National Institute?
Can I request a mathematical joke from Paco, all the way from Georgia?
No, I've been caught off guard. Okay. Here.
Birthday wish yan, Paco.
Okay. What is the difference between the Gaussian integers in the high school?
What's the difference?
Correct.
A high school is a principal's ideal domain. The Gaussian integers are a principal ideal domain.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you, Paco. Julius, iba yata itsura mo dyan, ah.
Ba yan? Hindi recognize it.
May nagwawali sa likod ni Joey.
Oo nga, hindi ko makat eh. Hindi ko makrap.
Sir, we just like to thank everyone who contributed to the
videos, who sent in their videos. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat, Lucky.
Lucky, salamat. Salamat, Lucky.
Thank you, Lucky and Vicman, for organizing.
Yeah, thanks Lucky and Vicman.
Kaya pala, iba yung
Salamat po.
Salamat po.
Bakit yun? Yung Godzilla, kaya iba yung itsura ko.
Ciao a tutti, a presto.
Bye, Francesco. Francesco, I'll see you in January.
Bye, Francesco.
Bye, Cayenne. See you soon.
Yeah, hope to see you soon.
So thank you, everyone. I will close this now. So happy birthday again, sir. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye, Fidel.
Bye-bye. Salamat, Joey.
Say happy birthday ulit. Bye.
Hi, Ernie.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Ay, Lucky. Next time,
Yes, sir.
yung pa na.
Bye.
Akala ko sasabihin mo next time, ikaw ulit moderator.
Kinulat ako ng mga yan. First webinar ko to, ha?
Won't be the last, sir. Won't be the
First
last.
webinar ko to, ako pa moderator.
Won't be the last, sir.
Totoo pala.
Tinotoo.
Joke lang to. Sabi,
Yes, thank you, Sir Julius.
Salamat, Sir Julius.
Salamat.
choice. Best choice.
I'll end this na po. Goodbye.
Bye.
Birthday, sir, ulit. Bye-bye na.
Happy birthday ulit, sir.
Happy
Claude,
birthday.
how are you?
sir.
How are you, Claude?
Fine, thank you, Fidel. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.